I remember when Lord of the Rings, The Return of the King, premiered in the cinema. Oh my God, it was this incredible thing here in New Zealand. Everybody flocked to the cinema, you know, it was this big exciting buzz, and it was a big thing in our family, you know, really big exciting thing. It's Lord of the Rings, you know? The first movie, the second movie, and this was the final installment. Oh my God, it was a huge thing. And so my dad got tickets. He got a ticket for Mum, he got a ticket for him, Dad, and he got a ticket for Daniel. And he got, wait, where's my ticket, Dad? Where's my ticket? He didn't give me a ticket. I wasn't allowed to go and see The Return of the King in the premiere. Man, I was gutted. I was really sad. See, I love The Lord of the Rings. I was such a tiny kid when they first came out, but I remember seeing the first two movies. No, I don't really remember seeing the first two movies. I remember the impact they had on me, though, and I really, really, really wanted to see The Return of the King in the cinema. But my parents, they didn't let me. You know why? Because I was still quite young, and they were worried that I would need to use the bathroom like in the middle of the movie, and so they would have to take me to the bathroom and therefore miss some scenes, and they didn't want to miss some scenes. You know, I can actually understand them. Now that I'm older, I can totally understand that. I'd probably do the same thing. Like, I wouldn't want to miss a single scene, you know, if I was like reliving that experience of watching it for the first time in cinema. Like, you want to be there for the whole thing, right? And so I can understand that. But, you know, I was like, I must have been like 6 or something, like maybe 8. Yeah, I might have been about 8. And I was just so sad. I was so upset. And I kicked up such a stink that my dad, he felt pretty bad about that. And so to compensate me accordingly, he promised me a trip to Rainbow's End, which is, it's like New Zealand's main theme park up in Auckland City. You know, that's where I grew up. And it's a theme park. It's really like one of the only ones I've been to, so I don't know much better. It was fun, you know, roller coaster, and, you know, rides, and, you know, candy floss, hot dogs, chips. You know, it's a good time. Log flume, all of these different things. I had a great time, you know, and sure, it was some compensation, but I didn't feel avenged. You know, I still felt cheated. I wanted to see Lord of the Rings. What's Rainbow's End got on Lord of the freaking Rings? Are you kidding me? I don't want to, you know, what is this, Rainbow's End? Nah, man. Nah, I wanted to see The Return of the King. And so I kept kicking up a stink. I said, Dad, I want to see Return of the King. You know, even after coming back from Rainbow's End. And so eventually he folded and he took me to see Return of the King. And you know what? I didn't use the bathroom once. So I won. I literally got a trip to Rainbow's End and I got to see The Return of the King. Anyway, I'm sharing that story because I'm actually here at one of the filming settings. You know, this is where they filmed one of the scenes of where the Fellowship are going down the river in Fellowship of the Ring. Amazing. It's beautiful, eh? And I'll tell you what, The Lord of the Rings has been such an important story in my life, and because I live in New Zealand, I grew up in New Zealand, and personally, I believe it's the greatest story ever written. But that's my opinion. But it's like, I feel I'm deeply connected to this story because I've always been a fantasy nerd. Like, I love fantasy. You know, as a kid, I was coming up with fantasy story ideas. And it's because of Lord of the Rings. I loved Lord of the Rings so much as a kid that I was inspired to come up with my own fantasy story ideas, you know, epic fantasy. And I've been coming up with story ideas since, you know, I can remember. I was playing like fantasy imagination games, and heck, I still am. I'm out here doing the same thing, you know. I'm 28 now. I'm still in my imagination coming up with stories and, you know, telling stories now here on this channel and in other forms. And I've spent the past must have been about 10 years ago, I moved to the South Island of New Zealand, a place called Queenstown. It's called the adventure capital of the world. And, you know, I went there on the surface to study hospitality management. And yeah, that was on the surface. Really what I went there for was to kind of discover my life purpose as an artist, you know, as a musician, as a storyteller, a writer. You know, it was to reconnect with these things. And I'll tell you what, Queenstown was, you know, it was the adventure of my life. You know, moving there, it was like I was in Middle Earth. I got to explore the scenes. I got to feel like I was you know, exploring Middle Earth, like actually exploring it. And I started to realize that I'm actually a bit of a hobbit. And over the past 10 years, you know, living in the South Island, you know, I moved from Queenstown to a city called Dunedin. And yeah, I've just been like exploring the South Island and, you know, doing all of these trips out in nature, like what I'm doing here, and visiting the settings. And I did this really fun thing last year where I stayed in this off the grid cabin in a place called Paradise near Glenorchy, near Queenstown, and it's like right in the mountains. And they did a lot of filming of it, particularly The Hobbit around there. But it was really great because I was writing my own fantasy book, my second fantasy book, and I was reading the Silmarillion, and I literally felt like, oh gosh, I'm so connected to Lord of the Rings. I love Tolkien so much. I literally owe so much to Tolkien and to Lord of the Rings and Peter Jackson as well, of course. If it wasn't for Peter Jackson, like I wouldn't have this connection with Tolkien's work, because like I've just spent like the good part of my adult life just like a hobbit, just literally like exploring Middle Earth, you know, and having and indulging all of these fantasy ideas and building them up in my imagination. And you know, I'm getting to them gradually. I'm working on my second book now. It's going to come out. It's not going to come out for a while. I need to publish the first book, which is called 10th Rule. The second book is called The Old Guard. It's my first fantasy series, but I'm going to get to that. But it's all because of Tolkien and Peter Jackson. And so honestly, I owe so much to them. And I'm so grateful to be, you know, here in Aotearoa, New Zealand. You know, it's my home. I owe everything to this country. Literally, it's just the best. I love it, you know, and I get to just come to a place like this, you know, where you know, one of the scenes was filmed, and I can just continue to foster that kind of, you know, creative writer's spirit that was born because of Tolkien and the Lord of the Rings. And so yeah, that's about all I wanted to share with that story. Yeah, good luck. See ya.